that you have to do that. And it says we're live.
Yes.
So, all right. Let's see. Feel like we're good. Anyone want to verify on their phone that people can see us? I feel like last time I failed at this miserably. I don't think I can hit other buttons.
It says, I'm just pulling up YouTube. It says live now. So I think we're good.
All right. Welcome to the Space Sirens Book Club.
Yay.
I'm Angela. And then I'm going to point to Lana.
Hi, I'm Lana from Lauren Lullabies, and I'm going to point to Kayla.
Oh, yay. I'm Kayla, and my channel is Crack Into a Good Book, and then I'll point, other way. I'm going to point to Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie, and my channel is Miss Richards Reads.
All right. We're going to talk about The Bone Shard Daughter, the first book in the Drowning Emperor series. Is that the name of the series?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Marlene. I can make things show up. Oh, I have powers. You can't tell, I don't use StreamYard very much, and someone decided I should be in charge today, so not ideal.
It's going to go well. I have confidence.
Yeah. Well, we'll start off for like the first 15-ish minutes just talking spoiler-free. I do think most of us largely enjoyed it, but if you just want to talk about your general thoughts, the things that... Whoa! The cat destroyed Stephanie's setup.
Sorry, Lucy is destroying.
Yes, I have all of the power. It's very exciting. I even made everyone's name in teal because that's my favorite color. So.
I didn't know you could change that. That's interesting.
Yeah, you can change the shade.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I definitely did not remember it looking like this, so...
No, I just like having fun. But Lana, since you decided to stay up so late to be with us, because I don't know if you guys know, but it's like she's in Australia and it's like really late. What did you think?
I loved it. I didn't know that it was adult when I first picked it up, and I didn't know that it was multiple POV either, and I absolutely loved it. And so I mixed between reading and audio as well. And the audio is really good.
Nice. Anyone else have general thoughts?
Yeah, I also didn't know it was multiple point of view. I think the synopsis mostly talks about Lynn, so I figured we would basically be following her. So it's a little bit of a surprise, oh, hey, we have, 4 other points of view. But I actually really liked it. And I thought it was kind of cool to see, at first, some of the points of view are now, how does this really connect with the full story? But then it's just as the book progresses, everything starts, trickling together. And it's oh, this is so exciting. I love seeing how everything comes together at the end. So I had a really great time with it. And of course, animal companion, Neffy. that was very exciting. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was the writing was weirdly easy to get into. And I kept finding myself oh my God, I just want to keep reading. This is super awesome. So definitely loved it. It was a 5-star book for me.
Nice. Marlene says the danger with lots of point of views is that you don't like some and skim over them, but I liked them all.
Same,
Yeah, I really liked it. I also did not realize it would be multiple POVs. But I really, really liked it. And I listened to the whole thing on audio, and I agree with Lana that the narrator was really, really good. And I gave it 4 stars. And Meffy is my favorite.
I also gave it 4 stars. I think I knew it was going to be multi-point of view because I think one of the first videos I watched with it was Peru's Project. She did a vlog with it, and she was surprised that it was multi-point of view. Something I thought was cool and might be helpful for people to decide if this is their weight of fantasy is it reminded me of the complexities of Foundry Side, not even just comparing magic system, but just the writing style, multi-point of view, how quickly the narrative progresses, the intrigue and mystery of what's happening because you are following people who don't know everything and the twists and the turns. It reminded me a lot of Foundry Side. So if you liked Foundry Side, you would like this. But if you were disappointed in the density of Foundry Side, if you wanted more, I don't think this will have the density of fantasy that you are looking for as a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's also funny that you say that because I had actually kind of, it's been a while since I've read Foundry Side, but as I was reading The Bone Shard Daughter, I was you know what? I actually want to read Shorefall. And then as I picked it up and I finished it, it was wonderful. But yeah, like reading it again, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see why my brain made that connection now. Because like at first I was like, I don't know exactly why I feel the urge to read this, but I do. So that's really funny that you mentioned that.
Well, yeah, because I think I was reading it at a point in the month where like I was glad it was like a easier read for fantasy, but I was also noticing like for me it wouldn't become a 5-star because it was a little, for like my taste, too surface. But like I'm very excited for the series, and I think this world is so cool. I'm very excited to talk about this world because the world building intrigue was like on the level of like 5th season for me, but like didn't have the same like execution as the 5th season. But like I was very like me chapter 2, like, well, we don't have to talk about it, but things happen very early, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm just like, what? So it had a lot of great things that I like, but I mean, it was only 430 pages only. In fantasy, that's short, right? Like it could have been longer, and I wouldn't have been upset if it meant I got more like time with people, especially since it felt like we had like 2 distinct arcs, and one felt more interesting to me than the other. I'm thinking more of the arc with Renami and can't remember the other character's name, Fallium?
Fallium, I think. Yeah.
I don't know how the audiobook said it. Starts with a PH. But like that arc was not uninteresting, but it wasn't as cool to me as Lynn's arc.
Yeah, I agree.
There wasn't as much going on with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to come out this fall. I think it's in November in the United States.
Yep.
At least. No, I'm very excited because this was also, I thought it was good. You got enough answers to feel good, but like I'm still like, but what?
Yeah, like what happens now? I'm very excited. Yeah, I feel like there's like multiple, I guess, mysteries that need to be solved. So I'm very excited to see what all craziness, I guess, happens in the next one.
Well, like this is a debut, right? Like I'm not positive, but I thought this was. I think it's a very tight story for a debut. I think most of the time when I read a debut author, they actually, the plot runs away from them a little bit. And I don't think that happened here. I actually thought it was almost too tight for me. Like I kind of would have been okay if they meandered. Like go ahead, explore. But like I do think that's a strength, is that it is such a tight narrative for me. Do you guys have favorite characters you want to talk about spoiler free for a bit?
I'm kind of go for it.
I was just gonna say, I'm listening to the audiobook and I love Mephi because he always like pats people to make them feel better. And it was just too cute for words.
Yes.
And just
Mephi is precious.
Very good.
Like sorry. He reminded me of Theodore from House in the Cerulean Sea. Like I just want both of them.
Yeah.
I haven't read that yet.
Oh my god, you have to. It's so good.
I'm still waiting. It's been months since I've
Oh wow.
Well, it's also a Tor book, and I know Tor books outside of the United States are actually kind of hard to get a hold of for a reasonable price. So, because I think they only distribute maybe in the United States, so shipping gets like a lot worse. Yeah,
that's inconvenient.
Yeah, things we don't think about here in the great USA, but So, but what was the character you were going to talk about, Kayla?
So I'm kind of torn between Lynn and Jovis. Like, I think initially I really liked Lynn, just like right off the bat. But I think with Jovis, I mean, like I did also like him, but he really grew on me as he's, you know, like kind of getting involved in these larger quests and, you know, the bigger events, I guess. And then, of course, just like his bond with Mephi is adorable.
Someone agrees with your Theodore comment, Stephanie. So there you go. What about you, Lana?
I really liked Jovis, as I put in the Discord. I was like, Jovis.
So I feel like, oh no, go ahead.
I think it was more because when he was introduced, I was like, oh, because I'm very much a I like good guys. And so and I don't mind morally grey characters. But I was just at a point in the month where I was just like, I just want something good. I want a good character. And then he came on and I was just like, oh, are you going to be a dick? And then like... And then, like, so that was my, like, oh, and then it just got better and better and better and better. And I fell in love with him more than anyone because of that, probably. But yeah, he was my favorite.
I feel like I have really weird opinions about the character work. So
that makes it good.
I think I liked Jovis's point of views most of the time. And I thought he was cool. And I love animal companion time. I think I disliked the arc Renami was in the most, but I found her character work to be the most compelling because I feel like Renami is a character we see a lot in fantasy where it's a person in power with privilege who is learning about a rebellion and decides what they're going to do with that information. And their arc, I felt, was more realistic than a lot of arcs we get. Like, if you read the Mistborn trilogy, there's a character in there that's like that. If you read Stormlight Archive, there's a character in there like that. And most of those characters are like almost hyper idealized forms of that character. And I felt like Renami's journey was the most realistic and I liked the nuance there, but also like I didn't care about that arc because whatever was happening with Lynn was by far the coolest thing of the whole story for me in terms of the intrigue. But Lynn, I don't know if this happened to you guys, and I think it makes sense in hindsight of the story, but she read so young to me, even though I think her character is like 21.
Oh, really?
Like, I couldn't stop visualizing like a 15-year-old girl.
That's exactly what I thought as well. So that's interesting.
And I mean, I we can talk about in the spoiler section why that might actually be, because obviously we read all these point of views. The author is actually very good at giving distinct voices to characters. So like it was really jarring to me because I kept trying to be like, wait, no, this is a young woman. But I kept thinking of like Lyra from His Dark Materials or Sansa from Skyward. Like that's the character I was thinking of, and there was a dissonance there for me because I'm like, she's like always I don't know, climbing on things, and she's like, but even her internal thought process felt childish at times. But I don't know, I couldn't pinpoint it as I was reading it why she felt young to me. But I'm glad I wasn't alone and that you also thought she was young.
Now I'm like really curious how old she is supposed to be because I definitely
she's like
read
21
her.
or 22.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's a surprise.
I didn't recognize that.
The book actually does talk about it. Although we'll discuss in the spoiler sections maybe what actually this all means. But
I guess that makes me feel mildly better about a particular plot line, but it's still like.
I thought Jovis was supposed to be old because Jovis was married. I thought Jovis was like in his 30s, like early 30s, late 20s. What did you guys think? That's what I thought. And that's how I knew, okay, if the author wanted to write this character old, she could have. Jovis does not feel like a teenage boy. He's a little single-minded, but like we've all that's not a unique protagonist, right? But I just felt like I had a weird experience with the characters because I didn't like dislike them, but like there was a lot of good. But then, like I said, because it was so close, like, and I was actually starting to read like a Robin Hobb book at the same time. I'm like, but I want like Robin Hobb to write these characters, but I want the same world because I think Robin Hobb's worlds are cool, but not like as cool as like this world. And I was like, man, that's the collab that my brain really wanted.
Yeah.
But if she would be like characters, it'd be a lot more heartbreak.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, okay, what I want is for Robin Hobb to be forced to write a romance novel, just a romance novel that's happy. Because what I want, and this is a slight tangent, is there are boat stories in Robin Hobb, and I just want the story of the young female captain of a ship who has to learn how to do it and falls in love with her first mate. That's what I want. Yes. That's the romance story I want. She won't write it for me. That's what I want. You thought so too until a description at the very end scene. I don't remember the description at the end scene.
Yeah, clearly I am completely off on all of these character ages.
Yeah. Do you think we're almost at the 15 mark? Do we want to start talking spoilers? Because I really want to talk about this world.
Yes.
This world's super cool, but I don't want to talk about it too much because I will say as a reader, learning about it was the most fun part. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's how many people are even watching right now?
I think 2. I'm just being nice.
Yes.
We're on the internet. Anyone could watch it. No one will. Anyone could.
Let me think if there's anything else I can say, like, non-spoilery. Yeah, I mean, just like very generally, the magic was very cool. I think it has, like, I also liked the idea of the constructs, and I think it does remind me a lot of, Foundry Side, where you have like writing commands for the type of magic. But I thought it was interesting, just like the variety of the different constructs and, what purposes they all have. Some of them were certainly more horrifying than others, but yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I thought that like this had it was like a very sci-fantasy magic system, more so than others, like more so even than Foundry Side. Like I'd call Foundry Side like a hard magic system, but this is like alchemy fantasy almost, with like, I don't know, it felt like, what if we went alchemy instead of chemistry in the past in our world?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, and like I'll talk more of the spoiler section, like more things that I was like surprised by the genre blendiness of this book just overall for me. So yeah, I liked a lot of the world building stuff. And I think the world building is fairly consistent and makes sense. Like I couldn't poke too many holes in the logic of the world. Or at least what holes might exist did not pull me from the story, which is important to me.
Yeah.
If you have a hole, patch it up. Don't let me see it. Like, hide. I like your cat. Just let your cat exist. Do its stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just clicking buttons and stepping on the
keyboard. That's not. No buttons. All right. Yeah. We're officially doing spoilers. Can I make banners?
Let's do it.
We're doing spoilers. I'm wondering if I have... Oh, I can make banners. You can keep talking. Just go ahead.
So, okay. Well, I guess, like, should we just, like, go real hard into, like, one of the big spoilers?
Go for it.
Okay,
Whoa,
so...
you're not even gonna, like... Nope, that's rude. I won't say that. You're not gonna ease them in?
Yeah, so I think, like, I kind of looked on our Discord with what you guys said. I, like, was trying to mostly avoid it because I was like, I just didn't want to spoil anything for myself. But I was surprised that you guys, like, picked up that Lynn was a construct much earlier than I did. Because, I think, for me, I just thought, like, clearly something was going on with her memory. And I just kind of assumed that he had erased her memory. But it took me a little bit to figure out, like, oh, no, she is a maid person. And then the horrifying ick scene of, like, surprise, she's his like dead wife. So I mean, that makes me feel a little bit better because I thought she was a teenager, and so I was like, okay, well, this is like even worse that he has,
Yeah, I think her construct's only 5 years old, and apparently has the eyes of Jovis's wife, which that's great.
Yeah.
I definitely caught, because I don't think I talked about this in the Discord, I caught that she was a construct or was not Lynn. I knew she wasn't Lynn because it looked like Lynn had died before she would have been of an age to have memories. Right? Like when you saw that book that we find.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, you're not Lynn, but I don't really know who you are. So I didn't really I figured out right at the time the book tells me that, oh, you are her.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. This is icky.
Yes. I was not a fan of that reveal. I was like, oh, God.
All I saw in the Discord was Nick, and I hadn't gotten to that part yet. And I was like, oh, God, what's going to happen? And I got there, and it's like, ugh.
And so this is the part that for me felt so sci-fi, because this is a very normal thing in a sci-fi book to have like clones and weird stuff this going on in like a thriller sci-fi, and like here it is up in my fantasy book, and I'm just like, okay. And it had like a kind of standard amnesia plot arc to like a sci-fi book. Like it was really interesting.
It's a really good point.
Yeah, I was like, I was really happy because those are like some of my favorite things from like sci-fi that are tropes over there.
Yeah.
It came here, and I thought that was really cool. And
I think, yes. Going off that comment about her brother, or Bayan, or whatever his name is, being a construct. Yeah, I also figured that out earlier. Because, I think it was like at that point where his like face was melting or whatever. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, clearly something is wrong here. And I think at that point was like, okay, now he is probably a construct. and then I think suspicions started forming for Lynn as well. But whew.
Yeah, and so for me, the first like big moment though in the book is when an island just goes away.
Oh
At
yeah,
the very start.
yes.
They just like right off the bat, oh, let's sink an island. I was like, what is happening?
And then you realize the title of the series is The Drowning Empire, and it all feels a little different.
That makes yeah.
I didn't notice it until I finished reading, and then I was just like, oh, the drowning empire.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and whatever the Alanga are, which I think have to do with Mephi people. I'm not positive.
That's what I was thinking.
I feel like
too.
it has to do with the Mephi people.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that, but now that you've said that, yes.
Because, like, you know, with Jovis and, like, his bond with Mephi, he gets a lot more powers, and, like, it talked repeatedly about how, like, buildings were shaking. So I was like, I kind of wondered if something, like, I mean, I guess this was pre-Mephi, but I wondered if he was involved in the sinking of that first island. But yeah, I definitely have suspicions about the Alanga.
Yeah, or if like, because Mephi was only tiny, like little when he first found him. So I'm wondering if it was like his parents or his kin that did it, and something happened to him, and he got separated from them, and that's why he was.
Yeah.
Help me.
Also, I love that the islands move. I think that's one of the cooler things. And it's like, it doesn't seem like it could happen, especially with like, this is Asian inspired, I think Southeast Asian sort of thing. Like sometimes those islands are like big turtles, right? But I don't think that's what they are. I think they just move around and they're in predictable patterns. But I think you're kind of right. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if like there's something happened in the process of Mephi being born. Because it seems like Mephi is a pup right at that moment, like very newborn. That coincided with the demolishing of the island. Because I don't think Jovis, I think that was just a very coincidental thing. Although before we saw the other Mephi, I don't know what to call that one. I think there is a name.
Thrana. I think it was Thrana.
Yeah, and so that one binds with Construct Lynn. But like, remember how Jovis has a different ethnicity that's not from this land? I can't remember the name of it. But I was wondering, are they related to the Alanga? Is that important for this bond?
It's a good question. I don't know. I feel like the Alanga or Alanga, however you pronounce it, I feel like they're very mysterious still, and like, oh my goodness.
I love you. You have your own little Mephi. It's very cute.
Like, I will not be upstaged.
Oh my god, I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
We were talking about Alanga.
Those weird statues and the like how they're opening their eyes. What is that about? Are those like, what if they're like the gods, but they have turned to stone or something, and they're waking up and like, I don't know, the statues will come to life. This is wild postulation. I don't know.
Or they set up like a machine or something just because of like the makings of the construct. I was like, are they like some form of like mechanism that, I don't know, something to do with them?
Well, so yeah, it's definitely one of those books where like, obviously the Emperor was like stopping something from occurring, like, but we don't really know how because there's so much we don't really know about him. But like, now that he's not there and not all his secrets are given to Lynn, obviously I think things are going to accelerate in the following books. And we're going to have characters who are probably going to try and save the day. Like, this feels like the apocalypse is upon us, which is my favorite fantasy trope. Which I feel like people don't realize that that's their favorite fantasy trope, but it's in so many good fantasy series.
Yeah.
The Stormlight Archive, Mistborn. Apocalypse is upon us is ideal. I mean, it's also why I love the 5th season, probably. Yeah. Ooh. No, it's definitely the more mystical side of things. But yeah, and I wonder why he was using the Mephi species thing to like run his memory machine or like grow himself in that weird cellar.
I mean, my thought on that was like they have some sort of special powers that he's like utilizing or draining or whatever. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of mystery on that front.
Yeah. He was such a bad person. Like, I want to say bad father, but like, I guess he wasn't a father. I don't understand this human.
Yeah. Well, okay, and so then it seemed to imply that he was growing Bayan to like take over his body or something at some point.
Bayan was an early model, so before he learned that he could just hurt himself and like use stem cell equivalents to his body.
Okay,
yeah. Before he learned that if I just take off this part of my body, which is why he limps, I can grow my own body. That other kid was the equivalent of Lin, where he would just take the people that end up on that island and take bits of them. Which that also begs the question, why can't you just take the whole body? But I guess that would also be very gross and violating, but it just feels like we're just taking these pieces and then putting them on. I think this is an answer to the Mephi question. Yeah. So, but it's just, I want to know more things, so I'm excited that she has the run of the castle now. So, another thing that's like not similar, but like another connection to Foundry side, keys. A lot of keys.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the keys, oh my god. Yeah, so I was so sad when the blacksmith died. Like, I figured that was probably going to happen, but also just like rip to him and his family.
No, that was so sad. I think one of my favorite scenes and how I knew that I would have been really happy if we had more quiet moments was when she had dinner with that family. Like, that was one of my favorite scenes. Like, and it's objectively not the plottiest of scenes, but I really liked it and I wanted to explore it more. And instead, they just get to die.
Yeah. I was like, surely not. Surely not. And then they did.
She went there. Yep.
I also, I really liked this regime of like, there probably is this force that this person was trying to protect them against, and it did involve constructs, but the constructs are literally life-sucking machines, like, that literally drain the life of your subjects. And it's like a more like, it's thematically like a more direct interpretation of how you like overuse the labor of your population to run something. Like, you still had that, you still had a feudal system, but you were literally like tapping into their life energy in a very direct way. There was a life tax. And I don't know, I liked learning about that because it's not given to you right away. You're like learning, like, okay, everyone's giving a thing. Why is that bad? Oh, this is what happens when it's abused. Also, the kids might die. Like, there's this whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
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 Oof.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I think with the bone shard stuff, like, as you learned that, it made a lot of the rebellion make a lot of sense. You know, like, sure, I also would not want my child to have to go through this. So I think that was, I don't know, I just think like all the revolutions that are building make a lot of sense. They're really motivating, and it's like, yes, I support this.
Yeah, I think, like I said, for me, I didn't dislike the Revolution plot arc. I think it kind of makes sense, and it's going to make more complications in future books. So in terms of like a setup, if it is a setup, it's not the worst setup. But I also like, I just was never having fun in that section. It was mostly just watching this relationship flounder a lot because of the different class differences, which is good. Like, I like when those power imbalances in a relationship are fought against and like really like looked at. But this Geo guy, like, what's his deal? That's gonna go really poorly, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think he's got some secret plots going on. But I don't know what they are.
We'll be seeing more of him.
Yeah, and it was at least like kind of a good outlet for the common man. Like, I do always like when, you know, we're reading about government changeovers, like really getting a sense of, well, why and what actually would get the common person to a better place. Like, what would make the replacement not worse for them? Although they did kind of say a lot in the book, which I did like, is like, but this revolution doesn't really have a plan. They don't really have a plan. They are just revolting, which is like kind of always my thing that always pulls me out of like a Star Wars story. I'm like, I get it, the Empire's bad, but really, what's our plan here? Like, what's our end game? Like, what are we doing? So I think that was all. I think there is a lot of nuance, which then I think always made me want more. I'm like, okay, you are obviously like 80% of the way there on all the things that I like. I just want it to be 100.
Yeah.
So with Sand, I think I initially thought that she was actually Lynn for some reason, and instead of Nisong or however you pronounce the name. So that was a little bit of a surprise. Like, for some reason, Sand also read a lot younger to me. So that's kind of, I think, why I thought she was Lynn initially. And like,
Sand
I guess
read a little older than me than Lynn, but not like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, like, I don't know, my weird hypothesis was initially like somehow something had happened to the normal Lynn, which I think I thought was Sand, and she did something that the Emperor didn't like and was like, okay, well, let me just like clone you or something. And then, so that's why I thought Lynn was Lynn before, you know, eventually realizing in that, whatever that chapter was, you know, where she realizes she's not, in fact, Lynn, but her mother.
I thought the same as Marlene. I thought it was Amala, but like, also, here's a weird thing. The person that Sand thinks she is dead.
Yeah.
So somehow the memory machine did take whoever that person was and give her the majority of that wife's memories somehow. Like, that person, Sand, is not actually the mom, which is, I think, why these constructs do read young, because they're kind of being, like, matured quickly, right? Like, if they're only alive for 5 years, I mean, they're very mature for a 5-year-old. Like,
yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I thought that was really cool because, oh, something's happening. Someone's microphone did a thing. Okay. Whoever muted it fixed it. Something weird, really. It was staticky on my end, at least. So, but I really did think it was Amala. I am kind of sad that Amala is probably for sure dead.
Well, I thought Coral was Amala.
Amala's eyes are in Lynn.
Yes. But for some reason, like, I thought...
Does Coral not have eyes?
I don't know.
I think everyone on that island's a construct. That's the whole point, which that's another cool thing. Is like there's going to be a construct revolution, because now all the constructs that exist don't have a master coder sort of thing. So they're their own sentient species, which is always fun to have that conversation in a book, which is also a sci-fi thing, because these are basically AI, but they're constructs. Like... But no, I think everyone on that island is bits and pieces of other people put together.
Yeah.
They're not...
I'm trying to remember. I thought Coral had said something. Well, I mean, I guess it was just like on that boat. And so I think that's why I thought...
No, they all went on the boat.
Yeah. So it could be somebody else, but...
like I don't think there's a human equivalent for anyone on that island.
They're just blends of people.
Yeah. And I think the females, it was an attempt to get the wife's memories, and the males would have probably been the attempt to get his memories. Or maybe they are a blend of the memories of whoever's brain is in that construct.
Delightful. Yes.
Yeah, it seems messy. It seems very messy.
It's like a rabbit hole.
Yeah. But I'm excited for that part, too. Like, I think that revolution is way more interesting than your standard... Oh, look, it's another feudal system. And of course it's unfair to the common man, which obviously we shouldn't brush that off, but it's like, a feudal system in my fantasy book has existed ever since I've read fantasy. Like, this is not news to me. I like that we're focusing on it, I guess, a bit more, because a lot of times, you know, we're with the royalty, and then I'm like, but why do I care about you? Why don't I want you dead? Like, why am I cool with you staying in power? Because that was like a book I read recently. It's like, I do like all of you, but like, I'm also eat the rich. So why do I care? I do wonder, and I don't know if I'd like this or not like this, but Lynn and Jovis, if Lynn is in her early 20s and Jovis is in his late 20s, wouldn't be a horrible romance to happen over the next few books?
I was going to ask about possible romantic subplots, because, like, I kind of thought that they were going to go with her and Bayan. What is his name? Whatever his name is. Something like that. I kind of thought that that's what they were developing, but, I mean, like, who knows?
I did want it to be, like, enemies to allies or to lovers, and it made it to allies, but unless she remakes him, which is morally bad, because the construct people are literally draining the life of real people, but they also have brains and it's so complex.
It is.
So, like, making a buy-in or even keeping yourself alive is a moral, like, quandary. Like, You know, what are the bones keeping Lynn alive? And then when that person dies, you have to replace those bones for those commands.
What if, like, so Falu has just become the governor of that one island. But so, like, what if Lynn eventually decides, like, maybe I just need to not be here at all because I am draining the life from people, and, like, eventually hands power off to Falu or Jovis or somebody else?
I don't know if she would do that. I don't think,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a construct thing or if it's a Lynn thing, but I don't think she's capable of not trying to survive. I don't know if that's just her personality or if I don't know if that's like a part of her code. Because that's another thing, like how much of her is code versus personality. So many cool things.
But yes.
So, very, very excited. Do we know if this is a trilogy or duology or longer? I assume trilogy when it's published an adult, but
That's what I was also thinking.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Which
Let's
cat's
see.
behind you right now, Stephanie?
This is Oliver.
I should have known. They don't look as angry.
Yeah, Lucy is like a shark down here. Like, I'm going to knock over your tripod again.
I know there's other things that we like haven't talked about that would be very interesting to talk about. My brain
Can we talk about how quickly? Well, to me, it felt like Jovis, like sort of after years of pursuing Amala, I just felt like he'd let it go really quickly. Was that anybody else? Was that just me?
So I think with that, I kind of like he did pivot, but I think I kind of assumed that he was going to like the main island to find out more about her and what happened rather than like pursuing that particular boat. But yeah, that is an interesting point.
I think for me, what was the catalyst, and it was kind of happening slowly, but he didn't notice it. And since he was one of our first point of views, it felt sudden to him, but it was always happening because that's, you know, another weird thing is we have two first point of views and two third point of views, which proved to me that I do like third person more. Not that it was bad. It's just like when you see it all next to each other, and if someone's writing sounds like, yes, I prefer this one.
That's interesting because I think I prefer first person.
That's fair. I'm
But
obviously
yeah, like they're pretty interchangeable for me. I don't like second person though.
Well, you're wrong. Second person's the best. But I have very hot takes on that one. But when I was reading it, I think Mephi was important catalyst for that. And so I think something the book does well and poorly is there's huge time jumps in his legend story as he's continually getting children and saving them. Like it's more than the times we see on page, but I don't know how many times. And obviously traveling on water takes time and things like that. So he is probably spending like 6 months in this story, but it feels like weeks to me and things like that. But I think because he has Mephi and because he's been integrating himself in the world again, like before that, he only had, how am I going to find my wife? But now he cares about Mephi and he's realizing I keep making sacrifices for these kids and for Mephi. And he was basically deluding himself into thinking, well, this is just how I make money to get to the next step, to do this thing. Yeah. And then I think there comes a point for him that he has his aha moment. But I could see it like feeling really sudden, but I do think like he spent a lot of time like slowly changing or realizing there are other things that make him feel fulfilled and give him companionship.
Well, and I think Mephi plays like a really big role in that because you start to see him, or Jovis, as the book progresses, like, you know, doing things that Mephi approves of, I guess. So I think Mephi is like one of the catalysts for him being like, okay, well, I should, you know, devote my life to this larger goal rather than my own personal goals. Also, okay, hang on. On that note, what is this, like, the Whetstone, and why does Mephi not like it?
I think it's probably fossilized bones of his people.
Ooh, that makes sense. That would make sense.
Think of that.
Oh, these are guesses I have. I'm reading Mad Ship right now. There are other types of
True.
Yes.
yes, that.
So I'm just thinking, well, Mephi would have to be mad about it because it's bad. What makes things bad? Vandalizing dead things, maybe.
Yeah.
Or it's evil in some way. Why would it be evil? I don't know.
Well, like, it seems like Mephi did have that ability by like breathing on it or whatever, but in like a smaller concentrations. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was another thing. It's like, yeah, it's obviously Mephi can sort of emulate part of it, but not quite. So, also, you're not too late. Well, I mean, we're definitely in the spoiler section. So, I mean, you guys bring up the thing with the clue. I guess, I don't know. I mean, I do agree that then this is part of why, like, the Revolution plot didn't have, like, the stakes for me. I'm like, why is this so important, like, right now? Like, why can't we wait a couple days? Like, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what was the urgency? And I didn't feel the urgency of the Revolution beating out the urgency of, like, his situation. And, like, I know at the moment things were moving fast, but it felt like plot convenience fast. It didn't feel like the world fast. Does that make sense? I don't know. I was just like, things are just happening one after the other. And, like, why is it going so fast? What is the catalyst that started this thing? And I'm sure if I reread, I could find like the moment, but I couldn't. I don't know. It was fine. It didn't bother me, but yeah.
I think at that point I was just like, what happens next? What happens next?
Yeah.
At that point, okay, something that this author did do that I know is always a choice, and other authors do it, and it's not like her fault, but goodness, how many chapters had a cliffhanger and then you went to a different point of view?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't mind. It's obviously a form of storytelling, but like, it was starting to grate on me because I'm like, again? And then I have to remember, oh, wait, where were we on last episode of Lynn's chapter? Oh, yeah, her dad just found her. Like, I think that was probably the part that was most debut author to me. It's like, this is like a very easy, cliche way of giving us your narrative.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, I don't know, that sort of thing doesn't bother me, I think, just because I tend to read pretty quickly. So, like, it's not that big of a deal. I get
That's true. When you can read like 2 pages a minute, I can see that. When you can only read like half a page a minute, there's a long time jump.
Yeah, I didn't notice it either, but I'm a pretty fast reader too, and I was listening to it on audio. So
I think I wouldn't have minded it as much if it wasn't like, oh, we're leaving Lynn's cool chapter where we just had this dude melt in his closet to Ranami being worried about her girlfriend again. Like, not the same level of intensity.
I did like in the Falu and Ranami arc, I did like their relationship. I really liked their relationship because even though they were from 2 completely different worlds, and they fought all the time, like it wasn't like you find in a lot of stories, especially with debut authors, the communication is just so bad, and you can be like, your relationship isn't that bad, just talk to each other. And like there was always that, well, it doesn't matter because regardless I love them. Like it just, nothing really could matter to them more than that. So at the end of the day, they're like, she's really angry right now, but I love her and we will fight and we will be together. And I loved that because you don't see that enough. Like the answer is simple for them. It's like they love each other, so they will make it work. And I loved that.
Well, I also think there was a lot of good compromise, at least from, what's her name? Falu. I can't say the name. I'm really sorry.
I'm so bad at pronouncing any fantasy names. Like, honestly, sometimes it's a miracle I can pronounce anything.
Well, I do think like she does like do a lot of growth that she needs to do in order to empathize with her. I do think there comes a point where like you, and this happens in other stories with power imbalances, it's like you do love her for like love Romani because she's Romani, but she's also kind of exotic to you because she is not like what you're supposed to be with. So like, you know, kind of pushing against that a little bit. Also, this is another book that I do think that people who like this one would like, Priory of the Orange Tree.
That's good.
That's also like a, don't be disturbed by the size of Priory. Priory is like very fast.
Really fast, yeah.
It's super fast. Yeah. No, yeah, I think the conversations that they have are really important. And some of the things I really liked, and I did like their relationship, I just like, it wasn't as cool to me as the other things. And if I was left off at the other chapter at a better place, I could be like, oh, okay, now we have to go look at this island. But no, it was always like, am I a clone? Now we're back to Minami. It's just like really dramatic. You know? Like,
yeah.
And that's not fine because it will work for other people because sometimes that cliffhanger is what makes it a fast-paced read for some people. For me, it just made it annoying. But but yeah, no, Priory of the Orange Tree is also what I would call like the same level of fantasy density as this.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better about that because that's one of the books I've been postponing reading for forever.
Oh, you're gonna read that in like 4 days maybe.
Okay.
It's really
That's not bad.
And the audiobook's really good too.
And like it also does similar good relationship work, but it doesn't take over the whole book. And that's another book where I'm like, why weren't these just 2 big duologies? Because I wanted more. Like, and so a lot of my similar complaints here hold there, but that's why I say that if you really like this, it will probably work. Like,
see, I do like the not as dense. Because then I can just go through it. Because I'm reading The Way of Kings at the moment, and I'm just like, wait, I need to go back. What? Who? Maybe like.
Yeah.
The pacing of that one's pretty
to go back.
It's nice to have some different densities when you're reading.
Yeah, I would consider this like a mid-weight. It's not light. I couldn't necessarily give this to like a really new person unless they're like really want to read a fantasy and they know what that entails. You know, like, I mean, I feel weird always saying like, what's a beginner fantasy? Because there are plenty of people whose like first fantasy is Gardens of the Moon and they're fine. So like, I feel like sometimes we just don't give people like, we don't trust people to have brains and raise up to the challenge, right? Like sometimes if they want that, it's fine. But you know, like, but I do think it's like, for me, it's midweight. It's definitely like a palate cleanser fantasy. It's a little more plot driven, although there's good character work, but it is, I would say, if I had to pick plot or character, a little more plot was why I kept reading it, where like the plot twisty moments and the world building reveals.
Definitely.
We're approaching an hour. What other conversation should we have before we wrap this up?
How did you guys picture Mephi? Like, I definitely thought Mephi was more of an otter. But then, like, obviously there's the horns situation.
There's like a picture going around Instagram now.
I saw the picture before I started the book. So that's how I envisioned Mephi. But yeah, I envisioned him a little more elongated, like an otter. And just adorable.
I think I definitely had otter things, but also cat things.
Yeah. Well, because he initially thought it was a kitten. Like, surprise.
I don't know. I don't visualize when I read, Kayla.
Yes, that's right.
There was a lot of How to Train Your Dragon animal companion feels, but with more words. But it didn't look like a dragon.
Yeah.
There's Elliot Brooks shared one that Jade was sharing, and it's going around Instagram.
Her sister.
Yeah, it's on Twitter.
The author's sister,
I want to get that.
But yeah, it gets bigger and bigger, and obviously, like at the end, it's kind of like I think of like Nala with horns and webbed feet. Older Nala.
Interesting.
But like the fur would be more waterproof, but like you know, kind of like that's that type of size creature of like a lion. I don't know why. I mean, that might be too big.
Who knows?
I've not been next to a lion in real life, so I don't really know.
They are pretty big.
We can go mountain lion. I think they're a little smaller. But
I visualize things pretty well, but I just kept saying Mephi is small, even though in the book he kept saying Mephi was getting bigger, and I'm like, no, he's still tiny.
But no, Mephi was cool.
I
just wanted Mephi to learn how to talk faster. It's really what
I just like when it's like, wait, you can speak in complete sentences now? So cute. Yeah.
I also another thing I liked about the book that a lot of books I was actually even talking about this with like Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I'm not going to spoil that, but like a lot of times in fantasy sci-fi, someone gets powers and suddenly is a master fighter, and I'm like, do the powers come with a class? force. Like, just because your muscles exert more force doesn't mean you know how to exert said force in a reasonable way.
Yeah.
And he even brings up how, like, it helps compensate a little bit, but mostly he's just a brute. And, like...
I did like that.
Yeah.
I liked that it actually, like... It felt like Andrea was on my level of, like, whenever this happens, people don't realize that, like, you're not going to be doing backflips in the air all of a sudden. Like, this isn't...
Still have to learn that.
Yeah, definitely more realistic for that.
And you get to even see him, like, lose his power for a bit and, like, what that does.
And I felt so bad for the people that kept going up to Jovis and were just like, I really want you to save my son. Can you please save my child? And it was like, it's so heartbreaking.
It was.
For a second, I thought this comment was, like, in the book.
A very good. Yeah.
I like the very goods.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked the half sentences too.
Well, for a second when Marlene posted that comment, I was like, wait, the book didn't have complete sentences. I feel like I would have noticed that. But then I remembered, oh, okay, we're talking about how Snuffy speaks. Well, because sometimes I don't talk with good grammar. I don't even know when I'm using, like, the passive voice versus the active voice. Like, I don't know these things. So there's a very good chance that grammar is out the window. Like, I mean, I read Sarah J. Maas. The grammar in that is suspect at best. Like,
Yep.
Oh god, Sarah J. Maas.
That talk about an author who should, like, not lean into plot as much as she tries.
We're just all here for the smut.
Well, I have issues with a plot arc in A Court of Silver Flames. I have some issues.
Oh boy.
It didn't need to be there and no one believed it, so why was it there? It was disturbing and a little bit anti-pro-choice and I was confused.
For the smut, just be honest.
But then people get mad at the novella, which I haven't read, but apparently that's what happens when she doesn't try to have a weird MacGuffin.
I liked the novella, actually.
Okay.
That seems to be a hot take.
I don't know. I mean, this is a tangent, but, like, there's a MacGuffin plot arc in that one that's similar to all the other MacGuffin plot arcs in the A Court of Thorns and Roses thing where, oh, the big bad's happening and you newborn child Faye have to go get the MacGuffin things to save the day. Like, that's the plot, right? But then there's the other plot, and I'm like, I don't believe you for a second that there are stakes, and this is just uncomfortable. Do not believe you. But I'm hoping her Crescent City will have more stakes. I have a little bit more hope. We'll see. Anyways, that was a tangent. Has nothing to do with this book. I don't know if you like one, if you would like the other. This is not a if you like this, like that. With Sarah J. Maas and the Bone Shard daughter. Oh, we have a question. We can actually answer this.
Yeah, so I did find something somebody had said on Goodreads, thinking that it's a trilogy. There's some information, I think, from her Twitter account that says there's the Bone Shard daughter, the Bone Shard emperor, and then the Bone Shard war. So it looks like it will be a trilogy. Perhaps.
Yeah, that follows the standard trajectory of fantasy plots. This won't get confusing. All right, we're just following. Oh, also, although it doesn't have quite the character work, City of Brass, that type of series has a similar fantasy density to this. Although that one has, I would call that more character-driven than plot-driven. Plot 2, book 2 is definitely going to be a Transitions of Power book, which could involve Revolution.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely get something with the construct Revolution, but I think Lynn may have some problems probably with, like, becoming the emperor and just kind of learning what's going on these islands. I'm curious to see how Jovis will play into that, if, like, he'll become an advisor of sorts.
Like, is Lynn even human? Can a non-human be emperor? It's very weird.
Yeah.
Like, eventually, I don't know if we'll get it in the trilogy, but I would really like the moment when she realizes, oh, a shard is wrong in me. Mm-hmm. Which, like, that's kind of happened to Sand, is like a shard got knocked out of her, and that's why she could break out of the fog and things like that. But Jovis, double agent. Jovis is the worst double agent. Let's just discuss. Jovis doesn't know what they're doing. Jovis is just, he literally is the epitome of trying my best
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
like I've hurt Lana a little bit.
But it's accurate.
Like, I don't know. I feel like Jovis is like more empathetic than he wants to be and just like understands whoever he's with. So like, yes, he understood the revolution, but now he's with this sad little empress girl and like who will obviously just be doing their best. Now, should there be an emperor system? Probably not. But as they discussed already, it's like, but also the representation system will probably also be corrupt. We don't have any relationship to that here with our Congress in the United States. It's completely above board. So, it's going to be fun. I'm going to be interested in her, because this is always where you get an author's hypothesis of what the best transition of power method is and what issues it might fall into and stuff like that. Like, I'm predicting very well of Ascension vibes. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this author had read Mistborn, because I mean, there are certain world building things that happen that are similar to the Deepness. If you've read the book, I'm predicting there's going to be, we have to fight against the world is ending, and also political shit is hard. Like I'm sensing these two buckets of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious if we'll get new points of view or if we'll follow these same characters.
I will hope we keep following these same characters, or even like tighten it up personally, especially if it's a similar length book. But like, she knows her story, so she'll know how to do it in the way she envisions it. But that would be my preference.
Yeah, same.
She could convince me otherwise, but I traditionally don't love a big change of cast. That's probably why, like, in Machineries of Empire, I didn't like Raven Stratagem as much right away.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait, these are new people. So.
I'm the same.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts? We're approaching the hour.
I really enjoyed this. I think it's a great fantasy.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we chose this.
Yeah.
I'll probably have my mom read it. It's definitely a book I think she'll like.
Same, actually. I think my mom would really like it.
Well, my mom just reads anything I give her. I only have to give her warnings sometimes. Like, Sword of Kaigen, I had to give her a warning.
God.
Jade City, she liked. I just told her it's mafia. So anything you expect in a mafia movie is fair game. And she gave it to a coworker, so I have helped the real world learn about a Fonda Lee book.
Excellent.
And by real world, I mean not the bookish community.
Yeah.
Because they don't sell them at bookstores. Have any of you guys seen Jade City in the wild?
I mean, like, I initially did when it first came out, but I don't think I've seen it in a while.
Yeah.
No,
You're welcome.
I've asked him to order it for me.
I had to have my bookstore order it because I didn't want Amazon's bad copy of the jacket cover.
That's why I did it too. I was like, I don't want it from Amazon.
Because it's very disappointing when you buy hardbacks and you spend hardback money and they don't match.
Yeah.
It's very
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up. I don't know when the Unbroken live stream is, but the next book is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. It is, I think, a more grim fantasy. But I also heard Justine stayed up till like 2 a.m. to finish it, so might have a really fast ending. Unclear.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall find out.
So that's the next one. And the one after that is, I'm told, sort of a Aladdin retelling.
Yeah.
Stolen Kingdom.
The Stolen Kingdom, that's right.
Yes, the Stolen Kingdom.
Which, if you want to keep up to date on anything, we have a Discord and we have a Twitter that Stephanie keeps up to date for us.
Yay!
That's where you can find all the things. And yeah, with that, I'm just going to wave and I'm going to end the broadcast.